So for my speech, I decided that I'm going to show you guys how to make lemon sugar cookies. A lot of people say that baking is hard and they don't know how to do it. So I just want to show you guys that baking is easy as long as you have step-by-step instructions that are easy to follow and all the baking supplies and ingredients that are needed to make the recipe. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when it comes to making the lemon sugar cookies is preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. When you don't preheat your oven when it comes to making cookies, they won't cook evenly and you can come out with some chewy cookies. So after you preheat the oven to 350 degrees, you're going to want to grab your ingredients and baking supplies that you need for this recipe. So for this recipe, you need a bowl, flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, vanilla extract, 2 eggs, 2 sticks of cold butter, also known as 1 cup of butter, measuring cups, measuring spoons, parchment paper, at least 1 lemon, a spatula, knife, spoon, a grater, and hand mixer, and yellow food coloring is optional. After you get all your ingredients and baking supplies together, you're going to want to start out with the cold butter and sugar. So you're going to take the 2 sticks of cold butter and you're going to cut them up into cubes and put them into your bowl. So once you cut the butter up into cubes and put them into the bowl, you're going to add your 2 cups of white sugar. So once you have the butter and sugar in a bowl, you're going to take your hand mixer or your stand mixer. I have a hand mixer, so that's what I'm using. And you're going to mix it all together until it's nice and fluffy, which takes about 4 minutes. So you want your butter and sugar mixture to look about like this. You don't want any big chunks of butter. You want it to be evenly distributed and everything mixed together evenly. So after your butter and sugar is mixed together, you're going to want to add 2 eggs and 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. So to get fresh lemon zest, you're going to take your grater, and I use only 1 lemon to get the zest. And you're going to grate the outside. You don't really want to get the white part of the lemon rind because that's bitter. The yellow part is what has some of the lemon flavor in it that you want in your cookies. So you're going to grate the lemon over top of a plate, and then you're going to measure it until you get 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. So once you zest your lemon, you're going to want to roll it on the counter to release some of the juices that are inside the lemon. Then you're going to cut it in half and you're going to squeeze the lemon juice into a container. And then once you squeeze both sides of the lemon, you're going to measure out 1.5 tablespoons of the fresh lemon juice. Make sure you don't get any seeds into your cookies though. After you add the lemon juice, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So once you have all those ingredients in the bowl with the butter and sugar mixture, you're going to mix them on low speed with your mixer until they're incorporated fully. So after all those ingredients are mixed together, you're going to want to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.25 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Do not mix up the baking powder and the baking soda. That's very important when it comes to baking. If you mix them up, your recipe will not turn out how it's supposed to. It won't rise properly, it won't spread out properly, and it can affect the taste of the recipe that you're making. For brighter yellow cookies, you can add 3 to 4 drops of yellow food coloring. For this recipe, I just wanted to see how it came out without the food coloring to know next time whether or not to use it. So this recipe does not have the yellow food coloring in it. Also, because I used salted butter, I did not add all the salt into this recipe. I only used about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It's your preference. When it comes to baking, you're supposed to use unsalted butter and then add salt into the recipe, but I used salted butter, so I didn't add as much salt into the recipe that it called for. So once you add all those ingredients together, you're going to mix them by hand until it's just incorporated. So when I say just incorporated, you don't want to over mix it. So you want to mix it just until all the dry ingredients that you just put in there are mixed in, so you don't see any flour or anything anymore. So your dough should look just about like this. You don't want it really runny, you don't want it too thick, because it affects the how the cookies spread out on the baking sheet. So next you're going to take a spoon that you eat cereal with or you eat your dinner with, and you're going to scoop up a ball of dough and you're going to roll it in your hand kind of like this and get a kind of a round shape. Then you're going to put it on the pan and gently push down on it so it flattens it out just a little bit. You don't want to flatten it out too much though, otherwise the cookies will get too thin. I spread my cookies out about 2 to 3 inches because they spread out when they bake, so you don't want them to touch and get stuck together during the baking process. So once you have your pan full, you're going to place it in the oven for about 9 to 11 minutes. You'll know your cookies are ready because they'll be nice and golden brown on the edges. So once your cookies are golden brown on the edges, you're going to take them out of the oven and sprinkle white sugar on top. So the sugar adds a little sparkly effect to the cookies and a little bit more sweetness. So this is what the overall product should look like. Without the yellow food coloring, it's more of a pale yellow color, which is okay with me. Some people like a little more brighter cookies when they're making lemon cookies. So as I just showed you guys, cooking can be easy as long as you have all the cooking supplies needed. The more you bake, the easier it becomes. I know this from a fact. I used to be bad at baking, but now I'm pretty good at it. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. So I got this recipe from modernhoney.com. If you go on that website, you can find a bunch of different recipes that you can try for yourself and test out your baking skills.